Alright guys, we got that busted off bolt stud in the block here, and I want to try to heat it up with the torch for a minute, throw some vice grips on it, and see if we can get it out. So let's see what we can do. Well guys, I got the bolt out. I ended up heating up this area right around the bolt so it was cherry red, and the bolt ended up getting a little bit hot, but I grabbed it with the vice grips and came right out. So this acetylene torch is mint. So I just got to clean up inside that bore a little bit more, and I'm going to take the valves out and clean those a little bit, maybe lap them here. But we got the jug saved, and that's all that matters, right? Well guys, I've got enough honed out on the cylinder, and what I'm going to do is take out these valves now, and we can see what's going on with them. Let's see. I have it set up for the wrong kind of engine right now. I got to loosen it a little bit. I was using it on a Briggs, and it's got a much smaller valve than a Gravely. All right, let's see what we got. Compress that up. Get that retainer clip out of there. There we go. Retainer's out. Now we'll let this down slowly. Let's see. There we go. Perfect. Take our valve spring out. Our retainer out. Now let's see if the valve comes out or if it's rusted in. Ooh, it's going to come out. There you go. I'm going to file or clean the bottom of the stem here so I can get it out of the guide. Let's try the other side. Let's see what this side's all about. Yep, perfect. So these valves aren't that bad, believe it or not. But I'm going to clean them up. They're all full of crusty shit. What I got to do is take a file to the bottom of the valve stem here. Oh, here's a file. What do you know? You just got to file them a hair so you can get them out of the valve guide. They get burrs on them and stuff like that. So there we go. See how easy that was? It's a little bit of filing. Oh, this valve is all rusted. This valve's no good. So no good. Maybe I need to get my Black & Decker valve grinder machine going. I think the intake valve is okay. That exhaust valve is shot. This one's pretty bad. Pretty bad, guys. I think this is a good job for my Black & Decker valve resurfacing machine, which I really haven't ever used too much, but this valve is toast. Now, if you want a good laugh, look at the valve seat here. Tell me that's good, huh? Look at all that rust on there. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. this intake valve isn't that bad, but the exhaust, you can't even tell that it's a freaking valve seat. So I think what I'm going to do for now is just clean these up on the bench grinder for a minute, even though you're not supposed to do that. But do I really care? Look at these. They can't get any worse than they are. This thing has about 10 years worth of crud on it. This one isn't all that bad. But I think that this cylinder is going to be savable. And it's funny, after I honed it out, I mean, there's some pits in there. Oops. But it's really not that bad. I mean, this one area on this side is kind of bad, but you know, I can hone it for a hair more. But I'm pretty happy with how it cleaned up. There's some big pits up here, but they're out of the ring area, so they shouldn't matter. So let's see what we can do to these valves. Porting and polishing, right? Yeah, this one is ridiculous. I can't believe that. It's like there's no groove at all in the valve. Check it out. Here's the exhaust valve. I took it to the bench grinder, to the wire wheel, and it cleaned up really nice, actually. But obviously I can't use it in here with a seat like that. And the intake valve cleaned up good. This one I'm just going to lap in. But this one here, I'm going to have to cut that seat a little bit. Somewhere I have an old-fashioned seat cutter here. I'll see if I can find it and we'll try it out. Alright, I'm going to try to lap it now. Got my suction cup thing here. See if I can get that on the valve. There you go. Get a little spit on there. There we go. As long as you can get it to stick on there, it works good. You gotta make sure you don't get your compound inside the valve guide, and then it just sticks on the top in the seat. This thing's being a jerk. It doesn't want to stick. Let me try the other side. Now what you're going to see is that after you lap it, you have a nice fresh metal area all the way around here. I'm going to clean the junk out of there. See, it's nice and polished, and the bottom of the valve also is polished in a ring as well where they're mating. So I'm going to hose this out with some brake parts cleaner here, because I heard some grit in there when I tried to put the valve stem in. You don't want any gritty crap on your valve stem or you're going to destroy it. I had this old-fashioned valve seat cutter that I was going to use, but the guide that goes through there is too big to fit into the Gravely valve guide, so I would need a different piece on the bottom here. And I have my electric powered Black & Decker Vibro Centric one, which I'm going to get it's not at this location. I'll bring it home and we'll hit that later and see what we can do to it. Alright guys, we're going to try to use this valve grinding stone on this jug here. And this is an old school thing I bought years ago. Black & Decker standard stone dressing stand. So the first thing you got to do is true up your stone. So you put the stone here in it. Let's see. Put the stone on the shaft here. And back here, it's all dirty, but you can tell it how many degrees it is. So this is 45 degrees. And there's a little threaded piece here that you tighten up. And you spin this with the drill that powers it. And this will true it up to 45 degrees again. So let's do that first. Now, this here is the actual, it says on here, Black & Decker Vibro Centric valve seat grinder. So this has like a funny looking hex type of chuck thing on here that fits in here. So what you do is you put this in there and then you lift this up. That's it. So we trued up our stone. So we got a nice trued up 45 degrees. And what we're going to do now is, let me put the jug back in the vise here. Now it has this guide that you put down in the valve, and this rests on top of it, and when you hit it with the drill, we can try to do a seat. So let's see. You see how nasty this thing is. I just hit the top here with the wire brush to clean off some of the rust, but there's basically like no seat at all left in that valve. So if I put that on there, and now this goes on top of here, like I'm just spinning it by hand here without using the drill for a second, but you can see it's starting to clean up the area. Now this stone is really like worn a lot. I guess I could dress it down a little more, but it barely is wide enough to hit this seat. And in fact, there's another stone that comes with it too that's a little wider. Let me see if I can find that one. Let's see. Here's the wider one here. Which would probably work better. But I think this one is set up at a different angle. Maybe it's 60 degrees instead of 45. But we're going to try it and see what we can do. All right, let's see what we got. I don't know how fast it's going to hit it, so I'm just going to do it for a second. Boy, this thing is really going. I think I have to use the bigger stone. I'll try it again. It's working. Well, it's cutting the seat. I'm going to take the other valve out just so I can use it as a reference as to how deep the seat needs to be. It's working. Wow, that's pretty cool. I'm going to hit it one more time here. I'm going to go a little deeper. There's some pits in it, a lot of pits. Yeah, there's a lot of freaking pits, so let's see if we can go a little bit more. I think that's pretty good. All right, so this was the intake valve factory, and this is the one that I just cut here. You can see that it cut pretty good. Let me get this guide out of here. There's a couple pits over here, but I think I have enough surface that will be past the pits here. So what I'm going to do is get my exhaust valve, and we'll lap it in a little bit so we can clean it also, because the other side of the valve we didn't face. So yeah, I think that we're going to make this jug work, boys. Okay, so I'm going to put a little of my little more of this lapping compound down there. I'll put some on the bottom of the valve here too. This stuff is really watery, like way more watery than I want it to be. It's just cheap crap from Advanced Auto Parts. It's not anything special. So let's see what happens now if I put this in. Let me get my suction cup jobber here. See if this one works a little better than the last one. Let's see. Yeah, that sucker's in there deep. All right, let's see where we're at now. So if you see where that lapping was happening is way near the top of the valve, which basically means that either our valve is totally worn or our seat is a little bit too wide. But it's going to work. It's hitting. So let's spray this up a little bit and clean it. Some of this brake parts cleaner. Now the area that the valve is seating on, this top area here, isn't really pitted, so it shouldn't negatively impact us at all. I think it's going to be pretty good, guys. So at this point, I'm going to do a little more honing on the cylinder. Then I'm going to put it back together and see what happens, you know. Got nothing to lose. And it was honing out pretty good. Very happy with the way it was working. I know a lot of guys are making fun of me for even attempting this, but I figure I'm saving the thing from the scrap heap, so I don't really mind doing it because it's just for fun. It's not trying to be a trailer queen or anything. It's just more of a challenge to see if I can get it going. But yeah, we're just going to hone it for maybe another couple minutes. And wherever it's at, I'm going to call it quits. And I have a pile of standard pistons over there. I got like 5 of them. So hopefully between the pile, I can get a set of rings out of it at least to put on this thing. I had this piston here that I'm going to use. It's missing the top ring, so I'm sure I can find one in my pile somewhere. And, you know, we're not really taking much meat off with honing. We were just getting the rust off that was in there from having no spark plug in it. So it's not like we're going to an oversized piston. If anything, I'd be shocked if we took 1,000th off. So I'm cool with that. All right, let's report back in a minute.